My narcissistic husband thought that I slept with his gay friend and demanded a paternity test, so I divorced him and left him miserable. I have been married to my husband for 5 years and we just had our second child. Our first child was a son with blonde hair and freckled skin, a splitting image of my husband. I have naturally red hair, by the way, and my husband loves my hair, but for some reason he was glad that our son wasn't a redhead. He was very proud and bragged a lot about how his genes were superior than mine, and that's why our son looked so much like him. In fact, the only time he stopped talking about it was when I got pregnant again. Throughout the 9 months, he kept telling everyone that our second child was also going to be a blonde and there was no way to prevent this. I thought this was weird but funny, and went along with him by saying, yeah, I also think the baby will have blonde hair. He was really excited because this time we were having a daughter instead of a son. However, his tone completely changed once I gave birth. Our daughter was the opposite of our son, and a complete splitting image of me. She had beautiful red hair and I was so happy for her because she was going to become the most beautiful girl in the world. But my husband showed a concerning lack of happiness. Even before we left the hospital, he kept commenting that the red hair on our daughter was just temporary, and that his genes were just taking their time but would eventually prevail. She would also end up having blonde hair. Again, I didn't get why he was saying all this, but I didn't pay much attention to it. It did bother me that he would avoid holding her, or taking care of her, but I convinced myself that it was nothing. A few weeks later, we held a baby shower for our daughter and my husband invited his gay friend. I surprisingly got along with him since we had a lot in common, and we talked a lot during the party. He also had red hair, but it was obvious that he had dyed it from black, while me and my daughter were natural. He was constantly complimenting how my daughter had the best colored hair and I was really happy, but my husband would sometimes interrupt us, and once again exclaim that the red hair was only temporary. I ended up asking him why he was so adamant on this topic. He explained that since our son had blonde hair, it meant that all our children should be the same because that's how genes work. I tried to explain to him that that wasn't the case at all, but he didn't listen. Anyway, a few days passed and I thought that my husband had finally dropped the topic, but out of nowhere, he came up to me and began demanding a paternity test. That really shocked me because he had never said anything about this before, and with our first child, he was essentially accusing me of cheating on him, something that I would never do. I said that I loved him, so why was he asking for such a thing? He refused to explain and just said that he wanted to be sure. I asked, be sure of what? And kept pressing him to tell me why he was being so suspicious. Being accused of cheating was actually very painful for me, and I wanted to know how he came to that conclusion. After a bit more pressing, he finally cracked and blew up on me while telling me the reason. I saw how you kept talking to my friend at the party. You never talked that much with another guy, so it was obvious what was going on. I knew that my genes would never lose to yours, so the only reason that your second child has red hair is because she isn't my daughter. You probably slept with him and kept it hidden from me. He also has red hair, so it explains everything. His reasoning was absolutely ridiculous, and I reminded him that his friend was gay and already married to another man. Also, he had dyed his hair and his natural hair color was black. I asked him why he couldn't just accept that our daughter looked like me, and her hair color wasn't an unnatural phenomenon that needed to be explained, but he kept telling me to shut up, and that he was getting a paternity test no matter what. The weirdest part was that he wanted a paternity test between our daughter and his friend, instead of our daughter and him. By that point, I had already broken into tears because he was refusing to believe me no matter what. He said that he was leaving, and wouldn't come back home until I had gotten that test done and proved that he was right, and that I had cheated on him. The moment he left, I hugged my daughter and son close to my chest, and cried for a good hour. Then I called my sister to come pick me up because I was leaving. I packed all my clothes and took my kids with me. I just texted my husband that we were over, and that I was going to divorce him. It turns out, he wasn't expecting me to fight back and thought that I would do exactly as he said. He quickly began apologizing for doubting me, and urged me to come back home with the kids. He sent me selfies to prove that he hadn't stopped crying, and was miserable without me. Apparently, he had also accused his gay friend of infidelity, and gotten punched by his husband. The news of his accusations had spread and his entire friend group had cut him off, so he was completely alone now. He said that me and the kids were all he had, but while he was typing, he messed up and ended up saying that his suspicions were 100% justified. So I just blocked him after saying, "Kids, I thought you said you only have one kid, but don't worry, they will be taken care of by someone who loves them for who they are, and not just their hair color."